Hello, and welcome to another episode of God Bless America. I'm your host, Mike Skiba. My number one pet peeve when listening to a liberal is them talking about paying for tax cuts. The government just can't afford to pay for tax cuts. Usually they follow it up with, for the rich. Paying for tax cuts for the millionaires and the billionaires. Well, if you notice, millionaire or billionaire is anybody earning $250,000, which after you account for taxes, which usually run about half your check, you're down to $125,000, which would bring you to about a little more than $2,000 a week. So there you go. There's your millionaire or billionaire. I don't know anybody bringing home $2,000 a week that's, a billionaire. But, hey, what do I know? I'm just a conservative. Okay, paying for tax cuts. And it drives me nuts as well how the media is so complicit in this big lie, because they will say it over and over. How paying for tax cuts? We just can't afford. The government just can't afford to pay for these tax cuts. They're not paying for anything. Because what they're saying is, let's just use the example I'm the government in this scenario. By me not taking your money, it's costing me something. So let's just say I'm your neighbor. And I come by and I say, you know what, you've got to give me $10,000. And you say, well, no, I don't want to give you $10,000. Then I would say, but I can't afford for you to not give me $10,000. By you not giving me money, it's costing me. Do you see how absurd the logic is? There is no logic. It's illogical. It's Jabberwocky. And that's a big thing. The left loves to manipulate the language. And, of course, the liberal media, they go right along with it, and they take the talking points and they run with them. And we will be talking about the manipulation of language in future episodes, I promise you. One of the biggest ones is the gay marriage debate, which has nothing to do with gays and nothing to do with marriage. It has to do with language, but nobody will point that out except me here on God Bless America with your host, Mike Skiba. So paying for tax cuts, the government is supposed to work for us. Do you think it does? Or do you think we work for the government? Let me put it another way. If you receive a letter from the government, are you more scared than the government is if they receive a letter from you? If you go to the mailbox and you open up your mailbox and you see a letter from a government agency, let's say the IRS, you get scared. Do you think if you send a letter to your representative, you think they get scared? No, they don't. Because it's been flip-flopped. The government doesn't work for you. You work for the government. And if you don't work hard enough and you don't pay enough, the government can't afford it. They can't afford to not take more of your money, you see. It would be like if you hired an employee and the employee said, I need to get paid X amount. And then you said, okay, that's a very reasonable amount. I'll pay you that. And then the employee came back the next day and said, you know what, I got 10 of my friends here. We're going to need 10 times what I asked for the other day. And you'd say, no, I can't do it. And they said, well, if you don't, we're going to come with a gun and take you and put you in a cell, lock you up. And you said, oh, okay. Well, okay, here's 10 times what I was giving you the other day. And then they came and they said, we need more. I just hired 50 more of my friends. Now there's 100 of us to do this little job that one of us was originally supposed to do. You see where this is going? See, the government was supposed to work for us and originally be very limited. But then I got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now there's hundreds of guys standing on your front porch, and they say, we need lots and lots of money. We need more than half your money. We need 75% of your money because you got to pay your fair share. And you say, but I just can't afford it. You're breaking my back. And they say, we can't afford for you to not pay more. We can't afford it. And you're like, what are you talking about? You can't afford it. You can't afford to take less of my money? And they say, yeah. And then there's, a guy from NBC News there. And he goes, oh, my God, look at that. These poor 100 guys standing out here that you originally hired one guy, but now there's 100 of them standing on your front porch with their hand out. They can't afford it if you don't give them more of your money and pay your fair share. They can't afford it. It would be draconian and cruel of you. These people will starve. These hundreds of people out on your front porch will starve and die if you don't pay your fair share. And you're saying, but I'm already paying all I can. I can't afford anymore. And they say, tough. Because not only are you not paying enough, but these 100 guys out here, now it's 1,000 on your front porch. They've taken out credit cards in your name, and they've run up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And you're like, what? And they say, yep. And they can't afford to make the payments if you don't pay more, my friend. There's 100,000 guys on your front porch. It's like one of those movies in the 80s and the 90s, the teenage movies where the parents would go away and the teenager would throw the party in the house, and there would just be the knock on the door, and then they'd open the door, and there'd be like 1,000 people on the front lawn ready to come in and party. They'd all show up at the same time. I love that. That was like in every teenage movie. There'd be nobody in the house, and people wouldn't come one at a time. There would just be a knock on the door. The kid would open the door, and there'd be just the front lawn would just have like 1,000 people on it. That's what it's like with the ne'er-do-wells with their hand out, the government employees and the freeloaders who can't afford for you to not pay your fair share. They can't afford it, and they've taken out credit cards in your name, run up hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars of debt in your name, and they can't afford it if you don't pay more your fair share, buddy. You see, it's an absurd analogy, but it's true. That's sad, but true, as Metallica would say. So there you go. That's what's going on. You paying your fair share. There's never enough. Let me clue you in. It's never enough. It's never your fair share. No matter how much you pay, 100% not enough. Liberalism is a beast that cannot be sated or satiated. It consumes the host, a parasite that consumes the host. And when the host is dead, it goes on to a new host and kills that one. But eventually, it consumes itself. But the problem is by the time that happens, there's nothing left. This has been God Bless America. Thanks for listening. I'm just trying to warn you about the disease of liberalism. So please, look for future episodes. We're going to talk about why secession won't work. We're going to talk about the manipulation, the left's manipulation of language. Got a lot of exciting and interesting things we're going to cover here. So please tell your friends and check back. This is God Bless America, and I'm your host, Mike Skiba.